SpongeBob's always relevant. It's a fact of the internet. Actually, it's a fact of life. And it's pretty damn relatable too. So here's a top 5 list of my most relatable SpongeBob episodes. To me, this is about it relating to my life personally in terms of rankings, not relatable in general or relatable in current society. If it was, then swirl jokes would probably be number 1. So if we're all clear, run the list. We've all had pets. I mean, a lot of us have. And in the case of many of the larger mammals, you can understand the absolute torture that is giving them a bath. For some reason, my dogs are completely fine with going out in the rain sometimes, but when the water is in a set container, they act like it might as well be acid. And then they give me this look like I'm trying to murder them or something. Heck, I couldn't even touch one of the feistier ones after she saw what I was going to do to her. No. You have to be smart. You have to trick them into traps, luring them with treats, toys, trying to assault their mind with subliminal messages, the works. But the problem with these things is that dogs are smart. Sometimes. The same trick usually isn't going to work twice, so you have to get creative every other time. And usually, true to the episode, dealing with dog hair, rubbed off dirt, and any additional mud they gathered after escaping from you and going back into the dirt, you're going to need a bath at the end. Sweet pups, you know I love you, but holy crap are you uncooperative sometimes. You have that one thing you're good at, no matter how impractical people say it is. Something you can do with your eyes closed. Me, for example, I have godly skills with the Prinny series of games. If I cared enough to learn about spawn patterns, I could have trained to do it in world record time. Well, in my prime at least, I haven't played that game seriously in years. Anyways, maybe it's not something as small as that. Maybe it's something you practically define yourself by. Being good at whatever that thing is just part of your identity. One of the biggest examples that come to mind is music theory in school. I was amazing at it. Not naturally, I still had to study hard, but I was way above everybody. But like in this episode, you are presented with a challenge or an opportunity to display your talent. And you mess up. Maybe it was stage fright, maybe you weren't at top form, maybe random factors came into play, it doesn't really matter. At that moment, you failed. But people, like the pricks they are, start wondering, because of that one incident, if you were ever that good in the first place. Maybe the people you had camaraderie with based on that skill start shunning you. All that pressure causes you to doubt yourself. There was one time in particular when the final exam for music class came, something that was worth nearly all the marks for the semester, and I overthought some of the questions with my advanced music theory knowledge and put something based on a higher level concept on the paper. But in doing so, I didn't actually answer what the question was asking specifically, and I did terribly on the test, which made me barely pass music class and brought my semester average just when I was starting to do so well at school. Guess who, due to the fact that he already had grading anxiety by always being near the bottom of the class thanks to competing with the top students in the country, started to doubt if he was ever that good at music to begin with. The problem shown in this episode is that you don't just lose respect for something you held in high regard, you slowly start losing confidence in everything else. Ever practiced for a competition only to be knocked out in the first round? Ever studied so hard for something but still failed the test? There you go, that counts too. Part of SpongeBob's character that everyone knows is that he's a phenomenal fry cook. To lose that, well, everything will then start spiraling out of control. But while a success story of you bringing yourself out to your own funk is nice, another easier way to go out of it is to get encouragement from someone you trust, and have them tell you that, yeah, you are that good, and you will still be that good, perhaps better, if you just don't give up. Who knows, perhaps somebody was hiding the pickles under their tongue the whole time and there's nothing wrong on your part. I am dealing with the problems presented in this episode to this very day, with less land development issues. I am a very nice guy. Quite forgiving, quite altruistic. However, that means that, especially in my younger years, I was taken advantage of. Because I didn't want to inconvenience others, or make a scene. Or sometimes I just knew confrontation would waste too much time. That included, but was not limited to, being sent to the canteen to buy stuff for other kids at school, people always cutting in line due to the chaos of what is the Jamaican school lunch rush, and asking nicely to join the group with the cricket equipment that students were allowed to have at recess, and being denied playing with it by everyone else at every recess for 2 years! But while I'm less of a pushover now, I have problems with how I'm being assertive. Here, Plankton tries to teach SpongeBob the wrong kind of assertiveness, which is just being a douche really, and he starts getting what he wants. Sort of. At the cost of alienating others and hurting their feelings. While I've never gone full douche, there have been so many times in my life where I finally assert myself fully, only to be either told that I've gone too far or I alienated others with the attitude that I showed. Unfortunately, being aggressively nice isn't going to solve your problems. Also, aggressively nice? That sounds kind of wrong. In this, he's making up for what he's done because he was a flat-out jerk. Again, while I never went full douche, when I did go too far out, I did try to make up for it, with very mixed results. Now, as an adult dealing with other stubborn and petty adults, I'm always forced to assert myself, then wonder the consequences of what I've done and said immediately after because I'm almost never sure if I did it right. I'm one of those guys who would prefer that people honestly forgot most of their interactions with me before I turned 13. Because before that, did I make some errors in judgment. So many social mistakes that keeps me up at night, sometimes wondering if anyone remembers what I did apart from me. One of those major mistakes was making an absolute fool of myself for others' entertainment in order to get much needed approval. And boy did that turn out horribly. Ripped Pants is an episode I really wish I paid more attention to as a kid. I tried to act cool to get with the cool kids, and that failed, and then I tried to get deep into anime to get friends who had that interest, and sweet lord did that not work. 8th grade syndrome at its finest. And so I acted overly eccentric to be endearing to the older people at school. And it sort of worked. So I kept doing it, until I started to get awareness of how nothing of real value was to be gained from it. What is smart about the Rip Pants episode is that Sandy was completely fine with SpongeBob's normal behavior earlier, but he felt that he needed to compete with Larry, with the lobster being none the wiser. Just like how I wanted to upstage the popular guy in my class, set out of envy for getting friends so easily and having them listen to and respect him. But in the end, the jokes are all he made himself out to be. The Ripped Pants guy. I love how the announcer of the surfing competition shows himself to be irritated with the pants ripping before the near-death scene. First, it shows that the jokes are gonna get old soon. And then even when it's inappropriate to do so because he's worrying everybody over his possible death, he makes another ripped pants joke. Because again, that's all he is now. The Ripped Pants guy. The first thing he does instead of thinking of apologizing is thinking of a new way to rip his pants, so people will return their attention. It's only after the pants itself leaves him that he realizes the reasoning behind his mistake. Once that part of it is gone, what really is left? Of course, at the end he had a great musical number to bring people back with his earnest feelings, and I didn't. I really just whooped around for a bit. But I met 2 of my best friends in the grade afterwards, and upon being myself I was truly accepted into another group of friends, even though it was still as the eccentric kid of the group. But at least this time it was natural instead of annoyingly played up, and that's all they needed. Okay, no, seriously, anyone who's done like anything ever can relate to this episode. Heck, I think I procrastinated when making this list at least 6 times. But the beauty of it is actually how it's done. The episode, not my lack of motivation. It's way more intricate than a simple I wish I wasn't being lazy episode. Let me break it down. It's all a terrible process. See, first when you get the homework, you try to start it immediately because you know it's best to do so. And then when you try to start, you think, man, I need to get in the right mood and finish some things first so I can focus. Then lo and behold, in the middle of doing all that, all the YouTube channels I watch update. My friends are having a day out. There's a Nintendo Direct. Asafa Powell comes to visit my street. That actually happened. Everything possibly distracting just seems to happen all at once. Or if it doesn't, you subconsciously go to look for something distracting. Even better if it's a chore that needs to be done so you can feel justified in not accomplishing anything homework or project related. I always lost it at the can't have dirty garbage joke. And then you realize you've wasted time and actually try to do something on the work in a stint of desperation and frustration with yourself. However, what you usually end up accomplishing isn't much or the most simple part of the work. You finish something and so you feel accomplished. And then, break time! And in that break time are 1,000 more distractions or attempts to get back in the mood. Food is indeed usually a part of that distraction set. However, at this point in the episode after the conversation with the mailman, things start getting weird. SpongeBob falls into a nightmare about his own procrastination. What I think is brilliant about this set of scenes is that you can't tell exactly when he fell asleep. You know it was after making the extravagant "the," but there's no scene showing him dozing off or trying to resist it. It just happened sometime after. Maybe he never actually talked to Patrick. Or maybe he did talk to Patrick, but never actually swallowed the eraser shavings, and the eraser shavings leading up to the mailman were part of the dream. Maybe there never even was a pumpernickel. Falling asleep on the job can happen quickly anytime you're on your break, and sometimes you can't even remember when it happened. But after he wakes up from the nightmare, he realizes that he's almost out of time. Then in that moment of desperation, all the ideas he could possibly use come to him. Come on, you know it's happened to you. It certainly happened to me. I hate to say it, but I do this kind of work best under pressure. I can barely muster the motivation to practice drawing, but I can draw non-stop and pull multiple all-nighters for an art competition. And then there's the other thing that's poignant about this, is how easy the ideas came to him. Often at the end of it all, whether through your own discovery or through info gained from your peers after the fact, there actually was a simple way of completing your work. If you only truly focused or even just asked for help, then it would have been clear. It's just that in real life, the amount of time you have left usually isn't enough to finish the work you now understand anyways. Or at least, to finish it properly. On a final note, the end of the episode involves the assignment being cancelled. Now, obviously I'm usually not so lucky, but a lot of time I go to the class, which usually happens to be in the morning, and the tutor/teacher announces that there's an extension! Wow! I guess I didn't have to overstress myself after all. Or run panting to the class with such speed and urgency so I wouldn't get a mark down for being late. I think my feelings are summed up well enough by this scene.